Hi, everyone. Just in case you forgot what Dostoevsky looked like, there he is. Yes, it's not about him as a writer, but it's about him as one of the people who lived in the city. Let's put it like this. So, I guess part of the explanation why Dostoevsky was such a gloomy person and his works were so grim in many ways, that's probably due to what the city looked like in a way. So I often begin this tours on Dostoevsky from the area where we have monument to Dostoevsky, not far from where he lived. We saw the area where he lived. One of the areas where he lived, he changed a lot of addresses in the city. And in the first episode, as you know, all my tour recordings are available during 1 week since the live stream on my YouTube channel, all through my website, and then the rest goes to the secret playlist for my sponsors. So in case you missed some of the tours and you can't locate the link, please contact me. It's not an issue at all. I understand sometimes it's not so easy to find a tour in the 900 something tour recordings. This is the Vladimirsky Church, where Dostoevsky also, well, prayed many times. He did go to this church very often. And But that area we have covered. So we in the last episode, in the previous episode, we visited Rubenstein Street. That's exactly the street. It's like 5 minutes walk, in fact, from the monument to Dostoevsky to the Rubenstein Street, and that's the bar crawl street that we visited together on live walks with Oscar the Bear too. And we're here again to the Rubenstein Street. Last time we finished at this very corner. We finished exactly here talking about the uh, one of the houses that looks very well, one house that looks very odd. And this is this one. We call it the teardrop of socialism. Just as a quick reminder, a quick recap of what this house was. It's the one of the first commune houses or communal houses built in 1920s, early 1920s, and it's one of the horrible places to live because, well, they say it's teardrop of socialism. People only had small bedrooms where you couldn't just stay other than sleep. People only had one toilet for one floor. People didn't have bathrooms. People had to go to the bathhouse because you are part of the social of the well of the community, right? It's socialism. So you don't need a private kitchen. You don't need a private kitchen, and you don't need to cook. Women didn't have to cook. Women also had to work just like men did. So everyone would go to a canteen 3 times a day, and then back home to sleep, and then back to work, and then again you're part of the community. So it was absolutely horrible to live there. This is the photo from the Soviet period. I'm not sure which year exactly. So that house went extensive, I would say, overhaul and in the late Soviet period. And one more time, I would like to speak about this woman, Olga Bergolz. She lived in this house. The thing is that 27th of January is not only Holocaust Remembrance Day, International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow night, but it's also the day of the lifting of the siege of Leningrad in 1944. And Olga Bergolz was the voice of the besieged city. She kept reading her poetry on the radio, and people who stayed in the city and couldn't escape, they listened to it. They would cling to their radios just to listen to the voice of Olga Bergos. It was soothing and pacifying, and kept people, hoping for the end of the war, and that came eventually. So Olga Bergos is remembered forever in the city. There is this memorial to her, and well, I just thought to talk about it again. Uh, Now, across the street from the house is this interesting, whimsically looking house slash castle or whatever. It's the residential building with theater on the first two floors. the small drama theater or small, European drama theater. It comes by different names. And it's just interesting to see that there is this very, very small theater, very small stage, very small, very small hall, but it's one of the theaters where you just tickets are always sold out. So some of the really, really big, that's by the way the photographs of the residential part of it. It's one of the photos I found online. There's not really beautiful lobbies there. Not everybody had the beautiful lobbies, but it just also was beautiful as it was. Or some of the lobbies just did not survive. It's also important to remember. And when this video was filmed, there was Karamazov brothers on. So because this is also Dostoevsky area, so it's quite significant to actually show Dostoevsky, right, to play Dostoevsky in his neighborhood. This is lovely. He would have been honored for sure. I know that. But this is the theater where the biggest also cinema, well, movie stars of Russia play. And that's why it's always a sold out. And it's amazing how this actress is still there. But the house itself, I mean, look at this. So it was just a tenant house. And it was the theater ever since, by the way, 1910s. But and I also like to share with you some old photographs. So, for example, in this street, I found this photo. It was taken exactly next to the doors of the theater. It was part of the demonstration in the 1920s, like cubism, art, politics, all together. So this was an artsy street, I would say, in the 1920s, and also some of the artists lived in the teardrop of socialism house as well. So this is another building built just next. It's kind of built in between the two houses, exactly next to the red building. And this is the 1913 poster. It was called the Theater of Miniatures, like it's a small theater, so they wouldn't be big plays performed there. Something minimal, a little bit of music, little bit of orchestra, and I like this Art Nouveau group style, so to speak, of them, and it just was a lovely theater. This is, for example, a newspaper from 1911. Well, this is the Aganyok newspaper. They are talking about the Troitsky theater miniatures, and that was the logo of the theater, that lady with a mask. Lady with a mask. And why is it called Troitsky Theater? Because the city, which is now, well, the street that is now called Rubinstein Street, used to have a different name. In the imperial times, the Troitskaya Street, the Trinity Church, it was named after Trinity Street, that was named after a church. So we have some old photographs, as you can see, very bad quality, but it's the best I could find. So this is from some sort of a newspaper or a journal. I'm not sure, and it's definitely old because I see the orthography. It's the old style of writing, so that was published before the revolution. So I guess we don't blame them. We can see how small and how cozy the theater was, but this is it, and we Mm, so the small drama theater, or the small drama theater of Europe, or the small drama theater, that's what they say. Locals sometimes say, well, we need a little drama here. And this is the photo of me taken in somewhat 2021. It was still the kind of the pandemic period, and I did a lot of filming myself. I would attend tours, guides were sitting without work, and guides would support each other. We would arrange tours for each other, very in-depth, and I would attend as many as possible, and I filmed so much just not to forget. And so I'm using also a lot of these videos now for these tours. So part of this walks were filmed by Oleg, and part was filmed by me, and I'm just including bits of everything and putting it all together. Well, the building just next to this theater, well, is quite unassuming, and you don't really expect to see this there. Gorgeous lobby. Right now, well, it's not the historic restoration. In fact, um, there are a lot of modern elements, such as the tiles are new, the tiles on the floors and the tiles on the. That was Misha attended with me because Misha is my colleague. He's also a tour guide, so he attended a lot of tours that I did too, and we're still wearing masks. Um, yes, I think it's like 2021, some winter, maybe early spring, very early spring of 2021. Yes, so the tiles on the floors, the tiles on the fireplace are new, but the fireplace is original. So the columns, the details are original, but it's not the historic restoration. As I said, not everything they were able to save. So it was decided just to save what was possible. And also the stained glass is not original, but just imagine this was a lobby, and that was, well, we're very close to the Nevsky Avenue, so obviously that's an expensive area, so the more the merrier. That was the motto of the landowners. Right now and back in the days, there used to be a rest there was a restaurant in the upper floor, on the second floor, and as far as I understand, the building is only partially residential, but the Rubinstein Street has a lot of residential buildings. But we also know it as the street of bars. Yeah, this is true. But the bars are on the ground floors, right? This is just it. The rest is, yeah, people still live there. And that's why it's always a battle. Like people who leave want to have some peace and quiet, but people who party, they don't want be quiet and peaceful, right? I mean, peaceful, but not quiet. And this caused a lot of tensions between the people and the bar owners and the visitors of those eateries. Yeah, that was not so, and it's still not really not completely clear what's going to happen to the street, but the bars are still there. And I'm not sure whether they have turned it into a pedestrian street, because right now there are still cars can go, but just one way street. Another building over there, not something special in particular, but it was also they on the ground floor there used to be different shops. There was a furniture shop, for example, and this is just I was showing you the photographs of this. Was the way they would transport the furniture back in the days. There were no cars yet, but there were carriages, so these horses were carrying this small car. It looks like a car of a train, but this is how furniture used to be transported. And on the car there would be the ad of the store, Troitsky Street, 11 Troitsky Street. That is, this is the Troitsky Street. So and then this car would go all around the city. So that was a good well, it's absolute something absolute natural nowadays, but back in the days they had to get to it, right? And I just like this photo taken in the Soviet times. There was the mm, um, well, it's written there atelier, right? So yeah, indeed there was the atelier, but there was at some point there was a store there where they would sell ready-made dresses, just garments that were produced in St. Petersburg, and this was one of the, I would say, um, places where every girl in Leningrad would really like to get to, but not everyone could afford those dresses. They were not really luxury; it was socialism, right? But they were still better than everything else you could buy in Leningrad. So it's just also nice to see what people looked like. Um, well, not much really in this house, just some tiles. There are still. It's not even a tile. It's the combination of um of what do you call it? It's not a dust. It's not a stone dust, but it's just the shredded stones, and and concrete. And also in this house, well, in Troitsky 13, the house just next door was the store where they sold Michelin tires. And this is the ad from the newspaper. You see this Michelin man? Like I just found it absolutely cute. So it was in the house just next to the furniture store. But this was a little later already when the cars were, well, appeared in the city, but it was still the imperial times. And I like the photograph. It's just a random kid, and I also like it that there's just the taxi driver, asleep. Just lovely photo views of the city. And at the back you see the two houses. So one was the furniture shop, and the next one had the tire shop on the ground floor. So all these houses were tenant houses, and so the ground floors will be for businesses, the rest will be for the living. This house in particular, so the one that had the tire shop in the imperial times and the Soviet times, it was a theater. uh, but well, it is a theater now. It also was a school in the imperial times on the upper floors, but in the Soviet times, it became the rock club. It was a rock club. Soviet rock club. I mean, Soviet rock club. How is this even possible? Yeah, this is a little bit. This is a little bit problematic because obviously rock music was prohibited, right? But we will talk about it in a minute. So first of all, as I told you, in this building, in the imperial times, ground floor was the tire shop, and on the other floors, there was there was a school, uh, and this is one of the New Year events that were held. Let me see if it says which year it is. No, it doesn't say which year it is, but it took place on 27th of December. There was some school event for the New Year event in the school. And so this was 12th of February, the evening of the Polish gymnastic community Falcon. I don't know. So maybe that was some gymnastic club. Why was it Polish? I'm not sure. Well, I guess it just was. Most members were Polish. I guess so. I'm not entirely sure, but this is well. But now this space belongs to the children's theater Zazirkalia. It's like it's like the world behind the looking glass. As referred to Alice in the Wonderland. And also, a sad thing, in the Soviet period there was also a school before the war, and in 1942. So schools were still functioning in the city. The city was besieged already, starting from September 1941. In May 1942, the Nazi missile, hit the house, and they were killed eight people, and 50 and 54 were injured. So they were children, they were teachers. So the school had number 218. But after the war, the school did not reopen, and in the late Soviet period, it was the headquarters of the Leningrad Rock Club. How on earth was it possible that the KGB would let the rock and roll openly be performed in the city, in the Soviet Union? That's because that closer to, well, let's say 70s and 80s, the KGB just realized it was way better to not just prohibit, but to allow and control. Uh, and that's just how it was. And this is the restored building in a lovely pink color, but obviously it looked a bit different. And This is where the future stars of Russian, Soviet, and Russian rock scene would start their career. For example, this is from an article in the Guardian about the Leningrad Rock Club. So there's a big article about several articles about Leningrad Rock Club, by the way. So it's a thing. It's a cultural phenomenon. So there is Boris Grebenshikov, who is referred to as the Soviet Bob Dylan, and this is sure. By the way, he's still around. He's still touring. He did a concert about a couple of months ago in Tbilisi, and Misha went there. Misha loves Grebenshikov. He is the band leader of Aquarium, and he also has a lot of solo records. He was a sex symbol. He was an incredible womanizer. Some people still swoon, whenever they see him. Some women, I mean, he's already in his 80s, I believe, but he's still like, oh my goodness. I'm not the one, but you understand. Um, and so Boris Grebenshikov was one of the headliners of all the concerts that were ever held there. There was also other bands, and the concerts were held in this building. I'm just sharing some photographs with you. And there is an interesting story that I thought would be interesting to share. By the way, this is the band leader, the leader of the band, the Kino, Victor Tsoi, another legend. He Misha spoke about him when he did tours on the Soviet music, because late Soviet period music is absolutely impossible to imagine without Victor Tsoi. He died in a car accident, unfortunately, in the early 90s, and that was the end of it. He was a genius, and his the music of Kino was revolutionary in many ways. And this is the courtyard, and I remember a lot of stories when so there were tickets, so it was official, the ticket sale, there was taxes paid and everything. And so this was still a school building. Part of it was school, and partly the Leningrad would be, well, was a school building. And there was a school uh, just next to it. And from the courtyard, people who didn't have tickets, people who couldn't buy tickets because there were no tickets left, they would enter through the backyard, they would enter through the school building and go and try to access the concert hall through the courtyard. So it's just a photo that I from the Soviet period. I don't know the year, but that's the idea. And I thought to share with you an interesting story, and it's going to get a little bit more loud here, so I'm going to maybe just turn it down a little bit. Joanna Stingray. This is an interesting story about Joanna Stingray and Leningrad Rock Club. Well, okay, let's me just kind of give you a little bit of the introduction here. So again, in the Guardian, you can find this article about her. So she was an American who managed in the Soviet times in 1970s and 80s travel back and forth to the Soviet Union and back to the States, and smuggled a lot of Soviet recordings out of the country and brought a lot of prohibited stuff to the country. I don't know how she did. I mean, I know how she did. I'm not going into details now, but there is a video, there is a film about her in English. She's an American, and there is a film. The film was in Russian, but I thought to share a bit of it with you. It has subtitles in English. So Joanna Stingray is sharing her impression of meeting Grebenshikov, who was the big womanizer. And do I have to say that they dated for several years? I think I don't have to. But they were meant to date. So this is the photo of them together. This is Joanna Stingray. Um, is it the Sex Pistols? Right? Is it Johnny Rotten? I'm not sure. I can't see. But she's holding a Walkman, which was something absolutely unique, something absolutely extraordinary for the Soviet people. They didn't know what a Walkman was, and she's talking to Grebenshikov. And this is her. I think it's a Jimmy Fallon show, if I'm not mistaken. Helen, thank you so much for the coffees. I think so. So and and she still looks pretty much the same, and she still wears this glasses. I don't remember what you call them. A very particular kind of sunglasses. So there is a little episode from the film about the Leningrad Rock Club. The entire film is on YouTube, by the way, with English subtitles. It's a very good production, like a good film. Oh yeah, and this is her and Grebenshikov on the roof in Leningrad, and you can clearly see this spilled blood cathedral. Everyone loved everyone loved the roofs of St. Petersburg.
На газоне. А мне какое дело, понимаете? Который?
В нужное время, оказывается, в нужном месте. Появляется американская девушка. В мемуарах, видимо, написано, голливудская какая мелодрама. Приехала в Советы, тут КГБ, нет туалетной бумаги. Но есть просветленные. Просветленные – это Боря, аквариум, кино.
Когда я впервые встретила Бориса, он выходил из метро. Я не знала, как он выглядел, не знала, чего ожидать. Там было море людей, выходящих из метро в меховых шапках и куртках. Было холодно, и я подумала, что он найдет меня, потому что у меня были крашеные волосы на макушке, и виски были побриты. Посреди этих сотен людей я встретилась взглядом с кем-то, кто не был похож на рокера. На нем была меховая шапка и большое пальто. Внешне он не отличался от остальных. Но в ту минуту, когда я увидела его глаза, энергия взорвалась в моем теле. Я поняла, что это был он. И каким-то образом я почувствовала, что этот человек изменит мою жизнь.
And so it is. So they dated for several years, and she she performed together with all those bands on the stage in the Leningrad Rock Club. And again, so this is how the world learned about Soviet music as well abroad, and also the Leningrad and people in the Soviet Union learned about the music abroad. So yeah, that was interesting. That was very interesting. So well, I'm not going into details about the rock club. There's so much I could speak about, but well, Misha can do it way better, and we are focusing on the city. But this was part of the history, and then just sharing some more photos of the rock club. Yeah. So that was in this building. So this is legendary. Everyone says this is the legendary Soviet rock club, kind of thing. So there was another demonstration on this street. So this is another and well, there were a lot of events actually on this street. And if you remember, well, this is the photo. This was before the revolution. So this is not the demonstration. I said it's not. I'm sorry, it's not demonstration. This is you remember there was a big there was a Michelin store, tire store. So there was a promotion of the tires. It was a collaboration of the tires and the a car store, and there was a race in St. Petersburg, and this was the joint event of the Michelin store, of the car store, and part of it was on the Troitskaya Street. Isn't it amazing? I mean, yeah, so cool. This is like 1910s. I don't know the exact year. Well, now we're going to visit an interesting lobby, one of my favorite lobbies in the area. The house itself, well, this is the photo. I don't have my own photo. This is the photo I found, but the house is already restored, so it's painted and it looks much better than it is now. Then it's in the photo, but the lobby, oh my goodness. So yeah, it still needs some restoration, but I just wanted to say this. So this is the beautiful Art Nouveau, some beautiful tiles. It even has the lamppost. So the original lamppost, since lobbies never really had enough of light, and there was no electricity from the beginning, so it was essential to have at least any light, whichever was possible. And there were gas lamps, well, oil lamps, first of all, and this would be like, for a long time it would be the only source of light, but then also some windows whenever possible. So we will see windows too, but in this section, like the entrance section, it was the only source of light. And the tiles, the tiles, the original, they're still there. Look at this. Ah, just beautiful. And so you can see this is Art Nouveau. The house from the outside doesn't look very Art Nouveau-ish, but this is the original tiles. Um, uh, this is the okay. The well, part of them is original, the one with the design, and the white ones were added later on in the Soviet times. Most of the windows, unfortunately, well, we lost the original glass design. It wasn't a stained glass. It was um a different kind of the stained glass. We will see there are little bits on some of the floors that survived. Well, the railings, however, are original. The steps are original, and the window frames are original. So that's what matters. But again, as I said, the glass unfortunately is not. The elevator was placed later and replaced with a modern one. And if we go up, you will see the original doors painted with this ugly brownish, I don't know, ketchup color in the Soviet times. And you see multiple doorbells. That means this is a communal apartment still. But the doors, but the door frames, the pseudo decoration, the decoration above the door is original. Still, I mean, it's color. I mean, the color is, um, but it's still the same door. You see, it's still the same door with the same design. So that's cool. We're good. And yes, a lot of tiles have survived. I know that there are talks about the restoration, and that's what I said. So, part just on some of the floors, the original glass survived, and this is kind of a milky type of a stained glass design. It's a more rare. I think it's a more expensive thing, and there are very few original pieces of such glass that you can find, and every piece of them is absolutely precious. So this is one of them that is still there. They were just used rarely for some reason. They were a bit more expensive, and that was a bit newer technology. So the older houses don't have it, didn't have that, hadn't had that, and so many of them just did not survive. That was it. This is the absolute gem, the Tolstoy house. It it belonged to a distant relative of Leo Tolstoy. Tolstoy was a big family, very big dynasty. And so, yeah, one of them was the landowner. And they commissioned this absolutely amazing house. It's one of the symbols of the city, not just the Rubenstein Street. And you just wouldn't believe how huge this compound is. It's like a city within a city. There are multiple courts. There are many apartments, like hundreds of apartments, more than 200. And the house was built by Fyodor or Frederick Lidval, who was originally, well, he came, his parents were Swedish. He was born in St. Petersburg. He would go back and forth, and then eventually after the revolution he would flee to Sweden. And he's good. He built a lot of stuff in Sweden too, and Finland. Yeah, and we saw Frederick Lidval in Petrogradska side, right, where we saw some of the masterpieces built by him. So he primarily built in Art Nouveau style, and also it was like northern Art Nouveau. And well, this is another example of his work, northern Art Nouveau. Well, Lidval in his mature years. And I think this is a good example of northern Art Nouveau, dark stone, dark plaster work, and a bit of the Gothic style, maybe just kind of obelisks. And just look at this. It's just one court. There are two more courts, so three courts altogether. And this building occupies the entire quarter. it's huge. It's not really easily accessible. There are guards, there is the code and everything. Well, but guides obviously know how to access, and there are also tours held in this house, by the way, and I have attended one. I have bits of the video. It's not enough for a tour, but if we manage, I might send a leg on a tour there, and we can put everything together. There are a lot of historic figures who lived in this house and still living, and there are photographs. So this is my photograph, for example. So dark. I don't know why I took this photo. That's me in the courtyard. I took some of the tourists there too, for sure. And it's just difficult to imagine that. Well, there are also this well-shaped courtyards. For example, look at this. So it's just, what is this? But these are the sections for the this is the black staircase, that is the service staircase, and the rooms for, and these are the windows from the rooms of the servants, right? So obviously these are the cheap apartments, but this is the courtyard. And this is what I said. So this is this well-shaped courtyard. So by well, I mean, okay, it doesn't have to be completely sort of circle of the round shape, but this is, well, there's no escape from there. That was it. So, but the entire courtyard is a maze, of course. Yeah. So I always feel so gloomy in there. I mean, look at this. There's very little light there. It's just, I mean, and they couldn't come up with a better color of this pukish, I don't know, yellow. I mean, it's just the worst. But nevertheless, well, that looks darker. That looks a lot more green, but that's a lot better than the color of in that courtyard. Nevertheless, so and you can see that it also kind of is turning a little bit. It's not just straight, and you can't see the end of it. That's because Edward was given this very irregular kind of plot of land, and I think he did just an amazing job. You see, there are guards, and in every court, in every courtyard, there is its own guard, and you see, so there is a altogether four courts, and there is the end of it. So now we can see the end of it. So it goes at a little angle, and this is the map, so you could see. So we started on Rubenstein Street, and now we're going through the three courts and just a little small court over there, and we end up by the Fontanka River, just like that. So it's like three big courts, and there is a small one to the right, and okay, this is some of the most expensive buildings. Some of the most expensive apartments are in this house, but you wouldn't believe it. Right next to some really expensive apartments are still communal ones. Still, some windows, maybe, well, 1912 is the year when they finished the house. They finished the construction and inaugurated the building. So in fact, the house never really well, they were not able to get the money back, unfortunately. I mean, it's not getting the money back, it's just for the house to pay off. Unfortunately, there was just not enough time and the investment, and that was it. So the house was nationalized, and every apartment became the communal one. So there were like thousands of, like, okay, not 1,000, but let's say 500 families lived in this house. Just imagine, it was like a town within a town. The small squares you can see in the walls, this is the ventilation. So that house was built, they didn't spare funds. So they had elevators, they had electricity, there's small electric power station in case of the power outages, elevators, everything. And we are on the Fontanka River. To the right hand side is the Anichkov Bridge. So this bridge is part of the Nevsky Avenue, right? So we see the palace of Belosersky. We visited it. We know that this is the house where one of the murderers of Rasputin lived. This is the old postcard of the Anichkov Bridge with the horses, right? And next to the Anichkov Bridge is Anichkov Palace as well. And I'm taking you to Anichkov Palace in March with virtual tours. Just saying. And now we're moving along the Fontanka River towards another bridge on the actually we have never really walked on the Fontanka River embankment too. There are some interesting buildings to look at. We saw a little bit on the river tours, but it's not the same. Speaking of the city and what it looked like, look at the both sides of the entrance. There you see these metal columns, well, sorry, stone columns. So these are the protection so that the carriages would not hit the side of the buildings, right? And they used to be really this tall, like really this tall. I don't know what it's how much it is in inches or whatever, but they were really tall, and now they're all underground, just almost underground. So, but they're still here. They're original. This is like one of those um witnesses of the past that are still around. But there is so much more in St. Petersburg. So the fun well, if you remember Fontanka River in the let's say 18th century, it was and up until early 19th century it was kind of the city limits, and this area started to develop in well, let's say in the 19th century and on. And oh, I like this photo. I also found it in the archives. So in this street, in the house we are passing by, used to be a big gramophone store, and it had gramophones from Europe and from the States. It's amazing, and I even found a photograph inside the gramophone store. Isn't it cool? Amazing. Yeah, but we move on, and we're approaching a bridge over there. I'm sure you can see it. We will come closer, but first let's have a look at the other side of the Fontanka River, just a way to make up to you for not really taking you on that tour. Apologies. So you saw the kind of in the space between the two buildings, there was a glass, a um glass wall. That was the modern stage, the new stage of the Alexandrinsky Theater, one of the big, best drama theaters in the city. So Alexandrinsky, uh, we saw it on multiple tours. It's very close to the Nevsky Avenue, and this is the photo from the 19th century. I believe it's colorized. So the Alexandrinsky Theater is right behind those houses. And the bridge I'm talking about is the Lomonosov Bridge, named after Mikhail Lomonosov, who was the Russian Da Vinci, but of the 18th century. However, so he was a man of many talents. He was well versed in all the sciences, from chemistry to languages, mathematics, and whatnot. So yeah, he was Da Vinci of in Russia. The bridge itself originally wasn't called after him, but when it was built, it was decided to name. Eventually, it was decided to name after Lomonosov. In the well, and the it used to be a drawn up bridge as well, so you could see you can still the chains there. However, they adjust the imitation, but originally, yes, you could open this bridge just like the bridges on the Neva River, but not anymore. So you can't do it anymore. It's totally solid. In I think in this illustration of early 20th century by Mikhail Dobujinsky, who was a theater artist, you can see this the chains. They're still there. I wouldn't be surprised if if those were the original chains, but I don't think they are. And this is the photo which which belongs to the Rijksmuseum. So in Amsterdam, I don't know why. So it's just attributed to the Rijksmuseum. Okay, why not? And this is the part of the decoration of the bridge. So the details are still the same. The bridge has been restored multiple times, and eventually the bridge was turned into the solid bridge, but the details are still the same, so that it's still original. And right behind the bridge, you don't see it, but I will tell you, this is the big drama theater building, the big drama theater. So this is the big theater. The small theater is just from across the river, right across the Fontanka. You don't see it here, but there's just, if you go a little further on, you will see the bridge. Speaking of school, so as I said, there was another school, and this is another school building. That's exactly that school from where the people who wanted to visit the concert of the rock club could do it from the courtyard of the school. But originally it was actually built as the educational facility. It was built. It was the big charity project of the Merchant Society. And well, I even found this um postcards. I believe like it's colorized, but this is the same building on the Fontanka River, and this is the school. So it was built, so that since it was built by the Merchant Society, it was turned into um it's kind of a commercial school, a school of commerce, basically. And there were multiple charity events held in the school, also different gatherings. So this was one of the gatherings. This is the concert hall in the school. Well, concert hall in the school. Um, I don't know who these people are. And this is the photo taken. I think it's early Soviet period. The same building. This is old photograph. The same church taken from the other side of the embankment, and some school photographs. That was a very prestigious school, and the children from the entire city could study there. Children from the family that could not afford to pay for the tuition. So this is it's kind of the high school of the Merchant Society, so to speak. So it was all about commerce there, but also just all the subjects you would study at school as well. Oh, and give me a second. I think I'm haven't shared something with you. And also you see these barges right just next to the embankment. uh, this is where they sold wood. I remember I told you that along the rivers there would be a lot of places where people could just buy wood, because this is how people would warm their apartments, right? Heat their apartments. And well, you could also do it here. You could also buy the wood on the Fontanka River. So that's yeah, the concert hall. I think there's a portrait of Nicholas II in this room. So this was the kind of a conference room in a way. This is the room of the teachers. It's written there that this is one of the classes. This is the natural studies room. This is the entrance. And it is still a school. It's the same concert hall, but it's, in the Soviet times it was a school, and in the modern times it's still a school, by the way. And it's a very prestigious school to study. And I think this is well, one of the highlights on the embankment, the Yeliseyev house. Yeliseyev, this name may ring a bell to you if you watched my Nevsky Avenue tours, if you watched me back in the Hago times, and also afterwards. So Yeliseyev family was one of the richest families in St. Petersburg for a long time. They opened up a big store on the Nevsky Avenue. I'm sure you can recognize it. It's just the amazing eclectic building, and it's one of the symbols of the city. I mean, it's just amazing story, the legend, which is partly true, partly a legend. But yes, originally Yeliseyev started as he was a serf. Not this one, but the grandfather of Grigory Yeliseyev was a serf, and for his talent to grow strawberry in the winter, he was given freedom and a little bit start of money so he could start his own business. Yes and no, but it doesn't really matter much. So he just was able to pay money and buy himself out, and then also there was the emancipation of serfs later on. But yes, they started from scratch, and then Grigory Yeliseyev, his grandson, would become one of the richest people in the city and in the country. And they owned several stores, and they were just about to open up a store in New York, but the revolution happened. And well, there were stores across the Russian Empire, in Paris, in Europe, and well, they were just about to open the store in New York, as I said, but that never worked out. Partially frozen waters of the Fontanka River, and so some old photographs of Yeliseyev house. And this was a just residential building. It was a tenant house again. So they were investing into real estate. And just look at that. This is just the entrance, right? So you kind of have the idea. A very eclectic facade, reserved on the one hand, on the other hand, not. Also, an interesting thing, the descendant of Grigory Yeliseyev, his grandson, uh, survived the revolution, stayed in the city, but eventually he was repressed. And this is the memorial plaque to the victims of repressions, of the Soviet repressions. You can find them all around Russia, all around the former Soviet Union. You can find them in Tbilisi too. Yes. So, and he lived in this house after the revolution. So he lived in this house, but originally this was just the tenant house. And this is the entrance for the carriages. This is just an entrance for the carriages. The railings, by the way, just so that the carriage would not hit the walls. So that was another way to do that. And it has two courtyards. They're quite a big courtyard. And in the end of it, and that's, I think soon we're going to wrap it up, you can see the lion. So we will get there. This is where we are going to wrap this up. So this is the first courtyard, and the first courtyard was always more expensive. It was always more ornate, and it depended, of course. Let's say in the Tolstoy house, that didn't matter. All the rooms were equally expensive. Here, here it's different. So the other courtyard was a bit smaller and a bit more modest in a way. But that courtyard had the absolute gem. It had a fountain for horses. So from the you see that's the fountain. So from the mouth of the lion would be constantly flowing water, and horses could have the fresh water to drink. You see, and this courtyard looks already a little bit more modest, because here were the cheaper rooms. And also in the back of the houses would always be the areas for the servants, like the black ladder, black staircase, sort of the black of the or the what do you call it, like the service staircase. And the next yard would be just this, right? No need for decoration, no need for anything. It's just as it is, right? Okay, I think this is where we are going to wrap this up. and we'll pick it from here next time. I haven't been able to schedule the next episode because I'm not sure about my whereabouts, but I will. Plus all this difference in time zones, it's a little bit driving me nuts, to be honest. So, but next time, next weekend, next Saturday, I should already be back to Tbilisi, hopefully. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I hope so. So this is it. Let me know if you have any questions. Hello to those who joined us a little after the beginning. Oh, Joe, good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. Hi, Villain. Adrian, I hope it gotten a little bit warmer. It's been really crazy cold there. Amazing. How are you holding up? Do let me know. In the meantime, I am sharing the links for tomorrow. So there are going to be 3 tours in all about Jerusalem. One of them is going to be a live walk in the Russian compound. It's going to be quite early. Well, 5 p.m. local time. I don't know. Please feel free. Well, rely. Okay, Eventbrite should tell you the right time. Okay, where you are. I don't want to confuse you anymore with that. Then it's going to be a Muslim quarter tour, a pre-recorded tour, because there is no connectivity, especially in that part of the old city, and a tour for the International Holocaust Remembrance, the Chamber of the Holocaust Chamber Memorial on Mount Zion. This is a very old Holocaust memorial, earlier, well, built prior to the Yad Vashem Museum. 3 Fahrenheit this morning. I don't know how much exactly, but I know it's very low. That I know. Hi Joe, are you going tomorrow YouTube channel already? Joe, I haven't been able to schedule any, I haven't been able to share any recordings yet on my YouTube, but I will. But the live tour tomorrow is not going to be on my YouTube. It's going to be a tour for World Virtual Tours. So it's going to be a Zoom walking tour, not my YouTube. But in case you're interested in YouTube tours, the tour I did earlier today in Tel Aviv, the very first link, and I have just shared, you can find it already on my YouTube channel. So it was a lovely walk. We ended up by the beach, enjoying the Mediterranean. So it was lovely. And we got to see some nice areas of the city too. So tomorrow's tour is going to be a Zoom tour. It's going to be not on my platform, but with World Virtual Tours. So just saying. Interested, and I like your bedtime stories. Dorley, I know you're not going to bed for another 5 or 6 hours, right? Or maybe, just maybe, it'll put you to bed a little early. That would be fantastic. I'll be happy to help. Happy to help. Okay, it's really time to go to bed, and I need to head to Jerusalem early in the morning to prepare for the tours and everything. Why did the wall that guided carriages get so underground? Oh, you mean the levels? Well, this is the historic level. I mean, it's like layers, multiple layers, the layers of the also the road coverage, and it's just the time. Plus St. Petersburg is on the water, so a lot of buildings, they kind of get a little lower as well. So there it's like 100 years. The next weekend, Joe. So the next weekend, I have not scheduled the tours for the next weekend. There are only a couple of tours scheduled. Let me tell you what we have so far for the next weekend. And if you're subscribed to my newsletter, you will be notified for sure. I will be every weekend. I do share my weekend schedule. But for the next weekend so far, we're heading to another church in the Mary Magdalene Church in Jerusalem. That's where we are heading to. Um, uh, and there are going to be a lot more tours scheduled, but I haven't done it yet. Let's just make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter, and then you will be notified. Yeah, thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much from the King. Oh, -20 temperatures, trying to survive. Goodness gracious. Oh yeah, it was +23 today in Tel Aviv. So I'm really, well, weather-wise is just an amazing place to be, honestly. I mean, Tel Aviv is an amazing place to be. Not amidst the conflict, but nevertheless. Just a second. Just in case. Just in case. Let me share with you the link on how to subscribe to my newsletter in case you're not. And if you're not getting the emails, but you're subscribed, but you cannot get in the emails, just let me know. Okay, Joe, so you will be notified. Will you say that in August? Oh yeah, always say that. August, which is the hottest month of the year for Israel, but yeah, it's still the amazing place to be, honestly. Yeah. Just not amidst the another conflict. That's basically it. Okay, hoping to meet you in Jerusalem in 17 hours from now. By the way, now I can easily calculate, so in 17 hours from now I should be taking you on a live walk in Jerusalem. Yeah, not a dull moment. You're very right, darling, not a dull moment. Thank you everyone for joining. I would appreciate your support. You know that you can send me a PayPal donation, you could buy me a coffee, coffees depending on uh, anything. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. And I will be sharing recordings around these days for sure. I promise. I always do. Bye bye. And good night. Good night, Dorley. Sleep tight. Bye bye.